Picture this. 1996. A tiny chip company, just 3 years old, is staring into the abyss. They have 30 days of cash left. 30 days until bankruptcy. Their first major product was a disaster. Their biggest partner just walked out, and they're facing a $40 million loss. That company was NVIDIA. Today, it's a $4 trillion behemoth, the undisputed king of AI, powering everything from ChatGPT to self-driving cars. How did they pull off the greatest comeback in tech history? This is the story of how NVIDIA went from a Denny's napkin sketch to world domination, forged in the fires of near-total failure. Our story starts in 1993 at a Denny's in East San Jose. A young Taiwanese immigrant named Jensen Huang, who once worked there as a busboy, is now sitting in a booth with 2 seasoned engineers, Chris Malachowski and Curtis Preem. Over coffee and grand slams, they sketch out a wild idea on a napkin, a specialized chip that could bring realistic, 3D graphics to personal computers. This was the birth of NVIDIA. With just $40,000 in seed money, they were in business. Soon, legendary venture capital firm Sequoia Capital saw the potential and injected a massive $20 million. The dream was becoming real. Their first big break came from Sega, who partnered with them to help port games from its Saturn console to the PC. Things were looking up. The future seemed bright. But then, reality hit, and it hit hard. In 1995, NVIDIA launched its first chip, the NV1, and it was a spectacular failure. The problem was technical. NVIDIA had bet on a rendering technique called quadratic texture mapping, but the entire industry, led by Microsoft's new DirectX API, was standardizing on triangles. Games like the iconic Quake, which were built for triangles, looked glitchy and broken on NVIDIA's chip. Sales were non-existent. Sega was furious. The $40 million they had poured into research and development had just evaporated. To stop the bleeding, they had to lay off nearly half their staff. The dream was turning into a nightmare. The company that had started with so much promise was now teetering on the edge of collapse. The worst was yet to come. By 1996, NVIDIA was in a death spiral. They had bet everything on their next project, building the GPU for Sega's upcoming console, the Dreamcast. But the project was a disaster. The chip was riddled with bugs, development fell 6 months behind schedule, and Sega had finally had enough. They pulled the plug on the partnership and demanded their $5 million investment back. Immediately. NVIDIA didn't have it. The payroll was due, the bank account was nearly empty, and the clock was ticking. They had 30 days left until the company would cease to exist. In Silicon Valley, they were a joke, just another dead chipmaker walking. In a move of pure desperation, Jensen Huang went to Sega's CEO with an audacious proposal. "We can't give you the money back," he pleaded, "but what if we give you something better?" Instead of a refund, he offered Sega 10% equity in NVIDIA, vested over 6 months. It was a long shot, a Hail Mary pass in the final seconds of the game. Against all odds, Sega agreed. The deal saved them. It bought them a few precious months of life. Inside NVIDIA, the atmosphere was electric with desperation. Jensen banned all long meetings, instituting a 5 sentences or less rule to keep everyone focused. The mission was singular: build the next chip, or die. The team hunkered down, surviving on instant ramen and pulling 100-hour weeks, fueled by the sheer terror of failure and a sliver of hope. This crucible of crisis forged the RIVA 128. Launched in 1997, it was a product born from desperation. There was no time for extensive quality assurance. The designs went straight from the engineers to the manufacturing fabs. But the tech was a triumph. It was a monster, capable of processing 5 million triangles per second. It fully embraced the industry standards of DirectX and OpenGL, obliterating competitors like the S3D Verge. The gamble paid off, spectacularly. PC manufacturers like Dell and Gateway couldn't get enough of them. In just 4 months, they sold over 1 million units. The revenue came flooding in, a V-shaped recovery of epic proportions. NVIDIA had stared into the abyss, and instead of falling, it had built a rocket ship and blasted its way out. The company that was weeks from bankruptcy was now the hottest name in PC graphics. With survival secured, NVIDIA set its sights on the throne. In 1999, they released the GeForce 256, which they marketed as the world's first GPU, or graphics processing unit. This chip was a game changer. It introduced hardware-based transformation and lighting, a feature that offloaded heavy processing from the CPU, allowing games like Quake 3 to run at a silky smooth 60 frames per second even at high resolutions. It was a revolution. Major deals followed. Microsoft chose NVIDIA to build the graphics processor for its first Xbox console. Apple used their chips in its powerful Power Mac G4 towers. By the early 2000s, NVIDIA's revenue had soared past $1 billion. They were the undisputed kings of graphics. But their biggest pivot was yet to come. In 2006, NVIDIA released a software platform called CUDA. It was a quiet revolution that would change the world. CUDA allowed developers to unlock the massive parallel processing power of NVIDIA's GPUs for general-purpose computing. Suddenly, these chips weren't just for making games look pretty. They were pocket supercomputers. Complex scientific simulations that used to take weeks on traditional CPUs could now be done in hours on a GPU. This was the key that unlocked the future. A few years later, in 2012, a team of researchers used NVIDIA GPUs to train a neural network called AlexNet. It absolutely crushed the world's most prestigious AI competition, ImageNet, recognizing images with an accuracy no one thought possible. This was the Big Bang moment for modern AI. The deep learning frenzy had begun, and companies like Google, Facebook, and the entire AI research community flocked to NVIDIA. Their gaming chips had accidentally become the essential tool for building artificial intelligence. Which brings us to today. That 30-day countdown to bankruptcy in 1996 seems like a distant memory. NVIDIA now sits atop a $4 trillion empire. Their H100 and Blackwell chips are the gold standard for AI, commanding over 90% of the market. They are the engine behind ChatGPT, the brains in Tesla's self-driving cars and Optimus robots, and the power source for supercomputers at every major tech company. Data centers, not gaming, now make up over 80% of their $60 billion plus annual revenue. From a napkin sketch at Denny's to the most valuable chip company in history. Yet, even now, Jensen Huang admits he is haunted by the fear of failure. He says he works 7 days a week, holidays included, consumed by a paranoia that one wrong step, one failed product, could make it all disappear. That near-death experience in the 90s became NVIDIA's greatest asset. It was a baptism by fire that forged an unbreakable company culture. It taught them the importance of industry standards over proprietary tech. It taught them the power of brutal simplification and focusing on what truly matters. It taught them to make fearless pivots, to abandon failing strategies and bet the company on a new direction. And most importantly, it fused the team together, creating a unified force driven by a relentless paranoia and an unyielding will to win. The ashes of failure at Denny's became the foundation of a legend. The lesson is clear. Sometimes, being pushed to the very edge of the cliff is the only thing that can teach you how to fly. Thanks for watching our journey into NVIDIA's incredible story. If you love tales of how giants are forged in the crucible of failure, make sure to subscribe to Empire Sketch for more. We'll see you in the next one.